7 years ago, I bought my first property with my wife. We paid £174,000 for the property and we put down a £40,000 deposit to secure it. So that left us with a mortgage of £134,000. Now, this was 7 years ago, so I was 23 years old at the time and so was my wife. And you know what? I was pretty ambitious at the time, probably a little crazy when I think about it now. But at the time, I ran the numbers and I thought, you know what? If we really knuckle down and really work hard, I think we could have this mortgage paid off by the time we're 30 in 7 years' time. Now, my wife thought I was absolutely crazy because who's 30 years old and mortgage free? Certainly nobody we knew. So she was like, you're absolutely crazy. That's not possible. But you know what? I ran the numbers again. I ran her through it and she kind of came on board and she was like, you know what? You might be right. So we both agreed that we would knuckle down. We would cut back on things and live a pretty minimal life and see if we could hit this goal of being mortgage free by 30. Now, every year, of course, we overpaid. We were allowed to overpay 10% of the mortgage without any penalties. So that's what we did every year. We paid the 10% off, and every time it came up to renew the mortgage, because we started off with a 3-year deal, then I think we did a 2-year deal, and then we did another 2-year deal, which was the 7-year total. Now, after the first 3 years, we'd already done 10% every year, and we threw a bit of extra cash in there at the remortgage stage to bring it down a bit more. After the next 2-year deal, we'd already paid another 10% each year as well, threw in another bit of extra cash. And we were kind of looking down the barrel a little bit, thinking we're 5 years in 2 years, we could be mortgage free. We were on track. I would say we were actually ahead of time, ahead of where I thought we needed to be mortgage free by 30. And everything was looking good. I was thrilled. I was looking forward to being mortgage free. But things don't always go to plan. After the 6th year, this was where my wife suddenly decided she wanted to move house. And she started looking at new houses in a nicer area, thinking more long term. Because ultimately the house we bought for our first home was a fantastic starter home. But realistically, if we were looking long term, 5, 10 years, 20 years in the future, maybe we'll have children and we need to think about maybe the space for those children, maybe the schools they might go to, maybe we need to think more about a place that we want to settle down and live the next 20, 30 years of our lives. And this is the type of thing we started to discuss off the back of her having this feeling that she wanted to move. And this was 6 years into the 7-year plan. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like the plan's going to be derailed. We're not going to be mortgage free. And I was panicking a little bit because thinking we've had this plan for so long. We can't back out now. We've got to follow through. But you know what? After a lot of conversations, we both came to the decision that actually, even though we were so close to being able to say we are mortgage free at 30, we both actually called it a day on that goal and decided we were going to move house. And I've got to say, it was a really tough decision to make. And one that I still think about today, because I think, well, right now, sitting here, I'm, nearly 31. If I had followed through on that goal, granted, I wouldn't be living in my new house. I would still be back at my old house. But I would be mortgage free at 30 years old, sat here right now. And I've got to say, sometimes it makes me feel a little bit like, oh, maybe we should have stuck to the goal. Maybe we should have gone for it. But I think that's just me being the person I am. I like to follow through. Once I set a goal, I set a target, I'm the type of person who needs to achieve that goal. I don't just back out and kind of flip the script and go down a different route. And on this one, I did. We got 6 years in and we decided we were going to go down a different route and kind of deviate. But do I regret it? Absolutely not. We have found a beautiful house, which, you know, is just behind the camera. I'm in my cabin at the end of the garden, my little office YouTube studio, and it is fantastic. So I do not regret it one bit. I quite often catch myself thinking though, oh, you know, what if, you know, I could be mortgage free now? And, you know, instead of being mortgage free, I've actually now got a much bigger mortgage than I even started with at the first house. But I also know that through those 6 or 7 years of really working hard and paying down that first mortgage, that wasn't for nothing. All that work didn't go to waste, because without all that hard work and saving and paying it down, there is no way we would have ever been able to afford the house that we currently live in now and we're lucky enough to secure in January of this year. We would not have had the equity to be able to put it into this house and secure it. It's far more expensive than our first house, in a much nicer area, in an area that, to be honest, we've always wanted to live in. So it was a bit of a dream when the house came up and we thought it was perfect for us in the location we wanted. And this is why ultimately my wife, once she saw this house, she knew she wanted it. She knew it was going to be our house. And that is ultimately why, after the many conversations, we both agreed that actually it was the right decision. But it still shows me that, you know, if you set a goal, and quite a lofty goal, because at 23 to say in 7 years I want to be mortgage free is pretty crazy by most people's standards. But the amazing thing is, and it's something that no one can take away from me or my wife, is we both know that we could have been mortgage free at 30. And I still think that is an incredible achievement. Yes, we chose to kind of deviate and not go follow through on that goal. But we know that we could have and would have been mortgage free at 30. It's certainly something that I can say I'm very proud that we nearly achieved. We got very close. And to be honest, we were in a position that if we'd have waited just an extra 6 months, we would have achieved that goal. So in my mind, it's not a case of we didn't achieve it or that we couldn't achieve it. It's more that we just chose to go down a different path. But it's incredible to think that somebody of 30 years old could have been mortgage free. And I guess the lesson of today is, don't be afraid that if you are, you know, in your late teens, early 20s, don't be afraid to set lofty goals for yourself, things that other people might say are crazy. And you know what? You might even, for a little bit, think you're crazy yourself. But without setting crazy goals, you're never going to achieve anything that's crazy. You know, you'll just have decent accomplishments, just average accomplishments that anyone can do. If you want huge accomplishment, you need to set huge goals. And I think that is the lesson of today. Don't be afraid to set huge goals for yourself, because over time, you'll be amazed what you can achieve. Quite often, you'll even surprise yourself. If you enjoyed this video, guys, consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. I would be so grateful. And if you'd like to leave me a tip as well, there's a link down in the description below which says buy me a coffee. And I would be incredibly grateful if you did buy me a coffee. Right then, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.